handed to him by John Bates, who John Bates is sitting directly behind me. And Brett Kavanaugh opens up this piece of paper and says, "Here's some questions from the jurors, from the people seated here." I said, "Okay." "Did the man at the park stare at you?" I said, "Yes." "Did the man at the park pass you a note?" I said, "No." "Did the man in the park point a gun at you?" I said, "No." Then he said, "Did the man in the park touch your genitals?" I looked at this guy, and I was like, "What?" Even the grand jurors were like, "Oh," they were like gasping for air. Like, it was just a shocking question. And that was the end of my testimony. I mean, then they said they were done. And I was just like enraged. I mean, I walked out of that room, and there was my lawyer, John Clark, just out there. I said, "Can you imagine what this guy asked me?" He asked me if the guy in the park touched my genitals. I said, "How in the world could somebody ask a question like that?" So,
well, let me stop you there for a second. Who is John Bates? And you said John Bates handed him the note. Who is John Bates?
John Bates is the secret judge I was telling you about.
Okay.
All the subpoenas out and all that kind of stuff. So John Bates was a lawyer too with Ken Starr's office, right along with Brett Kavanaugh. So John Bates, yes, that's who he was. So anyway, I step out. I tell my lawyer right away. He's like, "You got to be kidding me! They don't ask questions like that in the grand jury. That's unbelievable." So he writes a letter immediately to Ken Starr's office, and so Ken Starr denies that question was asked. They said they went through the grand jury transcript. There's nothing in the transcript. But luckily, we continue to do research on this case, and it's been 25 years now. But we go to the archives and we get boxes of documents, and luckily we found a document recently that pretty much clarifies that not only was Ken Starr lying when he said the question wasn't asked, but also Brett Kavanaugh denying he'd asked such a question. We found a memo from Kavanaugh that said, "I didn't ask him if the guy touched his genitals, but I did ask him a sexual question." And my question to Brett Kavanaugh is, "What did you ask me, Brett, if it wasn't did the guy touch my genitals?" So anyway, Brett knew there was going to be a story written about that. And he went to great lengths to get this reporter not to write about the genitals. So what he actually did is he violated grand jury secrecy rules by having somebody on his behalf reach out to the press not to write the story about the genitals. So now you're not supposed to talk about anything. I could talk about anything I want because I was in the grand jury, but the prosecutor, anybody sitting in there, are sworn to secrecy. So Kavanaugh pretty much lied. So what we did, and my story's long and convoluted, and it's detailed, and so my website has my whole story on it. So I don't want to go into the whole thing, but all the harassment. I mean, I was harassed unbelievably, not only before the grand jury but after the grand jury. I mean, fouled, and we had our phones tapped. We had a guy come into my apartment, my lawyer's office. They found sound devices, putting it up in where our lights were. And, yeah, it was a kind of a crazy thing. And I think that what made me significant, and I'll go back to Brett Kavanaugh in a minute, but what made me significant to the case of Vince Foster's death is that I was the witness who proved that Vince Foster did not drive his car to that park and shoot himself. His car was not in that park. And what we also found at the archives, and this is at our website too, and Brett Kavanaugh, again, you can hear him on tape being interviewed by Reed Irvine, who's an old conservative guy who's not passed on, but you can hear Kavanaugh in his own words saying, "Well, that brown car Knowlton saw as a problem. Everybody saw the same car." And Reed says, "Everybody saw the brown car?" He says, "Yeah, pretty much."
Well, not only that, I just listened to that Reed Irvine phone conversation. And Kavanaugh, especially toward the end, is kind of giggling. Right? Yeah, well, that's what the report says. And then he says, "You're not taping me, are you?"
I know. That's the best line of all. I hope people go listen to that. That is one of the most telling tapes of Brett Kavanaugh being uncomfortable. When they call him he's a smart man, I'm sorry. I spent time with this guy. He wasn't all that smart. But anyway, so after the grand jury and my lawyer complaining about treatment, now they start bringing me to the OIC office to interview me. Now they want to get into this car thing because I really was very adamant about what I saw at that park, and I wasn't going to change my mind no matter what. I know what I saw. So I probably met with Brett Jim Clement. Jim Clement's a very well-known. This is interesting too about the Foster death. They had Jim Clement was the child abduction, sexual abuse investigator for the FBI. He was the lead guy in the Foster case, which I always found very strange.
You're right, and today he does like a podcast. He's a frequent guest talking about serial killers and things like that.
Yeah, he was a profiler. Yeah, but he was a profiler for sexual predators. See,
right.
This is the other thing that people aren't aware of. And what he was doing in the Foster case, I have no idea. But anyways, after meeting, I met with Brett several times. He was very uneasy every time I met with him. There was Jim Clement, R. Jeff Green, who was a retired DC.
Moving means welcome to the Frontier Fiber neighborhood. With our high-speed Frontier 500 meg fiber optic internet, share video tours of your new place with upload speeds up to 25 times faster than cable. Just $39.99 a month plus taxes and fees and only $10 per month Wi-Fi router service fee. Visit frontier.com/fiber for upload speed comparison and full offer details. Frontier, don't go it alone. Limited time offer. Max speeds or wired speeds. Wi-Fi speeds may vary. Activation, internet infrastructure surcharges, taxes, and other fees are subject to change. Frontier terms and conditions apply. Moving means welcome to the Frontier Fiber neighborhood. With our high-speed Frontier 500 meg fiber optic internet, share video tours of your new place with upload speeds up to 25 times faster than cable. Just $39.99 a month plus taxes and fees and only $10 per month Wi-Fi router service fee. Visit frontier.com/fiber for upload speed comparison and full offer details. Frontier, don't go it alone. Limited time offer. Max speeds or wired speeds. Wi-Fi speeds may vary. Activation, internet infrastructure surcharges, taxes, and other fees are subject to change. Frontier terms and conditions apply.
An investigator. I met with these guys several times. I went out to Fort Marcy Park with them. I spent a lot of time with these guys. They were trying to. I don't know if they believe me. I don't know what their story was. I mean, they spent so much time there. I assume they must have believed what I was saying because the amount of time I spent with them. But in the end, I guess all they were trying to do is try to fill every hole that they could find in my story, just so they could write the report to say he committed suicide and he wasn't murdered. But I can just tell you, listeners, right now, this man did not shoot himself. The gun that he had in his hand, the gun that was found at the scene, was not a gun owned by the Foster family. There was no fingerprints on the gun that Vince Foster was found with. There was no fingerprints on the car they alleged was Vince Foster's car. There's no identifiable fingerprints on the car anywhere, which I find very bizarre. I don't know. It's just.
We did a full 2 hours. Yeah, we did a full 2 hour detailed interview on this, which even only still touches, barely touches everything.
Yeah.
I interviewed a lot of people around you too at that time. I did a whole series of shows on the Vince Foster. So we go back to the archives. I'm going to make a whole playlist on YouTube just for the whole Vince Foster's thing. Let's take a little commercial break, okay? And then we're going to be back with more Patrick Knowlton. A super insider, really, because what we're getting at here is that Brett Kavanaugh worked for the Starr Commission, and he basically was he was he was involved in the cover-up of the Vince Foster death. You know what I mean? And now he's somehow being trotted out by these right-wingers who hated the Clintons. What's going on? We got to figure this out. Yeah, because it's a little too complicated. We'll be right back with more of Patrick Knowlton. Again, his book is As If It Never Happened, which is his life story about growing up, his what made him the man he is today. We'll get into that. His website is fbicover-up.com. Again, book signings, you can find them in Syracuse, New York City, Palm Springs, and Tampa, Florida coming up. So keep an eye out for that. If you go to his website, I'm sure it'll be on there. We'll be right back with more of Patrick Knowlton after these messages.
Hey, you. Podcast listener, this is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. Take the blue pill. You wake up in your bed and go back to listening to mundane podcasts that won't challenge your religious beliefs and your so-called truths about reality, the universe, and consciousness. Take the red pill. Subscribe to the Event Horizon podcast, hosted by Mark Anthony Peterson, and he will show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Event Horizon takes a walk into the paranormal with a splash of conspiracy. It's the podcast that would be born if David Icke and the X-Files had a baby. Subscribe to the Event Horizon podcast by Mark Anthony Peterson on Spreaker, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, CastBox, Stitcher, or any of your other favorite podcast platforms. Remember, all we are offering is the truth, nothing more.
Are you ready to change your life, but don't know how to start? Is your stress and worries keeping you awake at night? Have you been battling grief, anxiety, or depression all alone? Have you lost touch with your own sense of being or spirituality? Soul Free Therapies offers professional and affordable live video streaming counseling and coaching services from the comfort of your own home. Sessions offered in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. Go to our website at www.soul-free.com and book your first session today.
PureSoapFlakes.com, 218-568-2525. Have you ever heard of Castile Soap? Pure Soap Flake Company handcrafts fine soap bars, laundry powder, and concentrated soap flakes using organic vegetable oils and work great in high-efficiency washers and top and front-loading machines. Order today at PureSoapFlakes.com, greenhome.com, Amazon.com, or give them a call, 218-568-2525, 218-568-2525. Pure Soap Flake Company is a proud member of the Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetic Guild.
Have you ever thought about opening your own mobile cart or kiosk business? Maybe the facility you manage could establish new revenue by adding coffee, food, or retail services. Cart King International can be the answer to your needs. Cart King is a North American designer and manufacturer of the finest mobile coffee, food, and retail carts and kiosks. Cart King has been working with clients and corporations across North America for 20 years, providing innovative designs, custom manufacturing, and timely delivery. Carts and kiosks are fun, and so are the dozens of designs on our website. Please visit us today at www.cart-king.com or just call us at 1-877-986-7771 and get your sales rolling.
Tina Helmuth is writing an ongoing series of fact-fiction books that boldly takes on today's most heinous crimes: the abduction, sexual trafficking, and cannibalization of our children. Suffer the Little Children, The Wrath of the Father, and Unbreakable. Deeply researched and mixed with the supernatural, good versus evil makes these thrillers hard to put down, shining a light on the root cause of these crimes and introducing a spiritual solution. Justice will be served. Available at lulu.com in paperback or ebook.
It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. We're here today with Patrick Knowlton, who's an insider with an eyewitness to the Vince Foster case. His website is FBIcover-up.com. And his book is As If It Never Happened. It's a brand new book about the story of his life. Now, Patrick, your first impression of Brett Kavanaugh. We've both met a lot of lawyers and judges and stuff. Does he come off like someone who's like a legal scholar, like a constitutional expert? You right here.
No, I mean, no, not at all. And actually, I was pretty shocked that it was his first case he ever prosecuted or ever investigated was the Vince Foster case. You could tell he was very young, very green, and I saw him over the years. I would go to different events where he would be speaking at Yale or something, and I didn't go there to harass him. I went there to ask him questions, along with my lawyer and Hugh Turley and one of our researchers. And he never really seemed like the brightest bulb in the box to me. And as he matured over the years, he's a 53-year-old man now. Has he gained some experience? Probably. I mean, he's been on the circuit court now, the appellate court for 12 years. But, you know, I don't know. I would just say I'm very surprised he's in this place to become a Supreme Court justice, and I would quite frankly think it'd be a shame if it happens. Not an honest person, I can tell you. He lied about me. So here's a couple things that people should know. First of all, he denied he asked me that genitals question. I would have absolutely no reason whatsoever to make up a story like that. I was very innocent through this whole thing. I would never have walked out and made a story up to tell my lawyer. My lawyer knew me well enough to know that I wouldn't do that either. He denied he asked that question. That's an outright lie. He denied that he leaked grand jury information. That's an outright lie. there's other things that he's done along the way. So